Greetings ladies and gentlemen, I am the one and only Mega Man here once again, and welcome back for more of the films of the Mega Man Marathon 2 from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. So, today, it looks like that Proto Man is going to be able to prepare himself for the films of the next Mega Man game for the likes of the films of the Mega Man Marathon 2, and this time around though, he's going to be able to actually toggle through the second Game Boy Mega Man game on the lineup, which appears to be Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. Now, I suppose I should probably forgot to mention about this is the fact that you guys even remember from the likes of yesterday that we've obviously already finished up with the films of the first Game Boy Mega Man game, which is of course Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge. Now, I should probably forgot to mention about is the fact that also known in Japan though, when it comes to the Mega Man games on the Game Boy, those games are called Rockman World for the sake of the films of the Mega Man games on the Game Boy in Japan. So that's something worth classifying for noticing this from the start, so I digress. So yeah, with the films of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, despite how short the game is, and sometimes it can be very difficult on certain situations. But apart from those side of things though, and also I did come across into 2 game overs at the end, but regardless of everything else though, hopefully when it comes to the forms of Mega Man 2 and onwards, thankfully the difficulty has been a little bit dumped down a little bit. Well, it might be still pretty tough on certain situations, most notably with screen crunch and also some very difficult platforming segments here and there, but I'm sure that Proto Man doesn't mind about this too much. So, without further ado, let's get into the forms of the second Mega Man game of this entire marathon. Like I said, Proto Man is going to be tackling through Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. So best of luck for him, and enjoy this particular short Let's Play. Greetings dude, I am the one and only Proto Man here, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. As what Mega Man has already said from the likes of the introducing portion of this entire Let's Play, today I'm going to be tackling through the forms of the second Mega Man game for the Game Boy, and not just that, the second game of this entire marathon of Mega Man Marathon 2, which this time we're going to be headed on to Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. And there's no subtitle on this time around though, because, well, I just figured this much. So yeah, this game first came out in 1991 in Japan, and then later on in 1992 for the English countries, which I think the English version of Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy came out roughly the same year as when Mega Man 5 came out for the NES. So I thought it was worth mentioning for the sake of the forms of that specific knowledge worth noting for. So yeah, if you're following through our Let's Play of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, that ever since that Mega Man has already managed able to actually just to take down 4 of those Robot Masters from the likes of in Mega Man 2, which there are, well, let's just say, Flash Man, Quick Man, Heat Man, and Bubble Man. Now, here we are on Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy, so this means we're going to be able to actually tackle through 4 other Robot Masters also for Mega Man 2. So because of that though, well, usually for the NES most likely. So as you can tell, we got ourselves our familiar Robot Masters, like I said, for Mega Man 2 on the NES, so we do have ourselves Crush Man, Metal Man, Wood Man, and Air Man. So because of that though, yeah, we're about to be able to wrap things up in terms of the rest of the Robot Masters based off of Mega Man 2 for the NES. So yeah, to begin with, let's get into the forms of Metal Man stage to start off with this time around. And from the get-go, spikes from the very get-go. So because of that though, once again we have to dodge those spikes, because just like before, spikes will instantly kill Mega Man. So because of that though, I will try my best to able to actually avoid those insane amount of hazards as much as I can, but regardless of everything else though, I should be alright with this. So yeah, this is Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy, for those who ever played Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge before. This game plays out exactly like the first game, except now that we actually have ourselves all familiar mechanics from the likes of not just Mega Man 2 for the NES, but also Mega Man 3 on the NES, because the reason why I point things out is because you'll see why. And so what if we were able to actually traverse through, oh wow, an extra life from those particular mini drill stuff ever since in Dr. Wily's Revenge, I see. So yeah, that's actually super dope and everything. So and of course that this game also came out on the 3DS eShop, so because of that though, nothing, usually some stuff I would like to discuss. I know for the fact that I was able to try to mention something that's entirely unique and all that stuff though, but regardless of such though, you're still able to actually do some platforming and, you know, jumping, gunning all over the place. So because of that though, yeah, if you haven't played the previous game before, you know exactly how this plays out to be. Except that the difficulty, well, it might be still tough on certain situations or certain sections, but I will have to admit though, thankfully this game is rather easy compared to the defaults of how it does it on the first game, because for one, it does have the returning aspect from the likes of the good old Mega Man games on the NES, to be more specifically when it first introduced into those specific stuff, from the likes of in Mega Man 2 on the NES, which if you remember, from the likes of in that game, it does manage to introduce into ourselves these energy tanks. Well, if we do manage to come across into one eventually though, after we decide to climb up through ladders and all that stuff, as you can see that we actually got ourselves our sliding ability this time around, which unlike the first game, does not have a sliding maneuvering. So because of that though, some situations like these sections right here, thankfully you can now decide to take a bit of a slide until you're able to actually go through certain segments. So because of that though, I'm gonna assure to you that Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy is basically like a combination of Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3, or to be more specifically, this entire moveset for Mega Man in this game is heavily borrowed from Mega Man 3. Oh wow, another extra life on the very first level in the game, which is very generous, I'm gonna say, especially noticeable because, well, much like in Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, that's thankfully extra lives, or sometimes the pickups can be slightly randomized every time whenever you're able to actually come across into certain enemy encounters and stuff like that, or certain hazards if you will, but for the most part though, I seemed able to get myself super lucky when it comes to able to obtain extra lives in particular. So here's the first boss that we're going to be tackling through, which is of course Middlemen right here. Now normally only forms of in Mega Man 2 on the NES, that basically his entire weakness, it can be summarized as in quick burrowing, but of course since that we don't have our quick burrowing with us in this game this time around, so we got able to use our Mega Buster in order to able to deal some damage, and all the while though we got to dodge a lot of those you know, the actual metal blade, and of course the actual conveyor belt, much like the forms of how it does it on the NES equivalent. So there we go. He's actually pretty easy to take down, assuming if you know the pattern of these attacks and all that stuff though. So yeah, you're probably able to actually get it summarized as such. So as you can see, in this particular installment, now we actually have ourselves our dog companion Rush. So in this case though, in addition to able to get ourselves the metal blade, but also we've got ourselves a Rush Marine. So that way, you can able to actually use that for certain underwater segments. Well, mind you, I don't know if we're able to actually come across into underwater segments from time to time, but we'll see what happens there as soon as we're able to continue proceeding for this particular Let's Play and onwards. So, yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and tackle for this next Robot Master we're going to be taking on. That's what appears to be Woodman. So, of course, I believe his weakness is going to be altered slightly this time around, because normally we have to take him down by a simple Heatman's weapon, which is of course Atomic Fire. But now in this game this time around though, it's been replaced by, I would classify for saying his weakness this time around is obviously Metal Blade. So yeah, that might be something worth noting for, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, until whenever we get into the forms of the next future games throughout the majority of the Game Boy Mega Man games, that the weakness chain is actually a little bit more slightly different this time. So yeah, you probably get the idea about that. So yeah, today's day is of course the 3rd of August today, in this case in 2022 today. So nothing else has been mentioning for the sake of the forms of certain news or anything else to be more specific. Well, apart from the fact that I suppose that Mega Man has completely forgotten to mention about this, and that is the fact that, well, recently during the course of, not only for the sake of, darn it, I somehow got my first death. But that's okay, because we got our checkpoint not that far from here, I don't think. So at the very least, we've managed to come across into our you know, the first checkpoint on this entire stage, so nothing else to be complicated for this point, apart from those very stupid, you know, cannon pop-up turrets that just keeps on shooting me all over the goddamn place. And also, strangely enough, we actually come across into those very familiar needle objects ever since in Mega Man 3 for the NES, which I'm guessing it's more likely related to, well, this stage is like a combination of, let's just say, Woodman stage and also Needleman stage for Mega Man 3 for the sake of the forms of some needle objects so you can have to be able to avoid and stuff like that. So, yeah, as you can see with that little EN, what that EN stands for, yes, energy tanks are now a thing in this game. So because of that though, although I'm pretty sure that's similar to the forms of how it does it in the actual Mega Man 2 game on the NES, which also applies in the future games on the Game Boy series as well, somehow you can only carry up to 4 energy tanks. So because of that though, that might be something worth noting for, in case if you're about to be able to come across into one of those, you know, energy tanks to spare, then, relatively speaking, there's not much else I can honestly try to think about it. Because I was expecting that, in some of the future games, that normally I was expecting to be able to carry even more energy tanks, but apparently in the rest of those Game Boy installments of Mega Man games, you can only carry up to 4, most notably because of the limitations of the handheld, so I wasn't able to actually be surprised there. So anyways, let's go ahead and take down Woodman, as you can see, and of course, since we're going to be using ourselves the Metal Blade weapon, so that way we can be able to actually instantly KO him with no sweat. So there he goes. He's actually rather easier compared to the forms of how it does it back on the NES version of Mega Man 2. So at the very least, that's something, alright? So anyways, now we've actually KO'd, you know, Woodman, so that means we got ourselves our Leaf Shield. So, since then we've got ourselves our Leaf Shield, so this means our next Robot Master we're going to be taking on is, of course, Airman is up next. And after Airman, we're probably going to be able to face off against with Crashman for last. So, and hopefully, once we take down 4 of those Robot Masters, or 4 of those remaining Robot Masters based off of Mega Man 2, then we'll expect that we can able to actually take down Dr. Wily once again. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how this is going when it comes to the actual story structure and stuff like that. Speaking of structure in this particular game, though, is the fact that much like the forms of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, although we still were able to actually face off against with those familiar Robot Masters in the past, but ultimately, the level design is actually a little bit more slightly different this time around, which, even then though, I was expecting they were able to actually bring us to the forms of that familiar level design from the NES days of Mega Man, but of course, that, although it wasn't until whenever we get into Mega Man on the Game Gear though, that I'm sure that Ray the Flying Squirrel will talk more about it until we're able to actually get into that game, until specifically later on rather, for the majority of the time on this month, which is August. So, and I should probably point things out as well, I think, is the fact that I suppose that Mega Man has technically already mentioned about this ever since the beginning introduction portion of the video, that you guys even remember about the fact that he did say that Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge is also known in Japan called Rockman World. Whilst in this game, it's usually called a Rockman World 2, because, well, it's a sequel to the forms of the previous game on the Game Boy. So, I can assure you that this game is usually being made by a different developer or something like that, or a different person has been made this, even though I haven't exactly looked upon that much history about it, because, well, relatively speaking, very similar to the forms of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, this is my first time actually playing this game, because I definitely heard some good things about it though, but some people, for some reason, didn't like the game all that much, which I have no idea why. they just managed able to hate this installment as much as the forms of anyone else does. But to me, I do like it. Although, it might not be perfect though, I'm gonna say this right now. But ultimately speaking though, is the fact that I honestly have no idea why that most people really despise this game as much. Well, I don't know about you, but either way though, because I've seen quite a few Let's Plays of this, basically, but I don't seem to have that much of an issue with this game whatsoever, but I just have no words to think about it, so... Anyways, let's go and bring ourselves the leaf shields until we're able to actually decide to take down, of course, Airman, so that way we can able to actually just deal with his weakness. So, basically, I suggest you're able to just take the invincibility frames, if possible, sometimes, and, wow, he's really easy, especially noticeable if you're trying to use the leaf shield after that attack has been finished. Then obviously you can just manage able to swipe him out like no sweat. So, pretty swell I have to say. So anyways, let's see if we can able to actually get ourselves after dealing with the actual airman. So in this case we actually have ourselves not only the air shooter, but also we have Rush Jet, which I'm pretty sure the Rush Jet function the same way as the forms of how it does it on Mega Man 3 for the NES. Wait a second. That's not the actual correct name for Crashman. That was, Clashman for some reason? I have no idea why they're going for that very odd spelling right here. His name was actually Crashman, not Clashman, for goodness sake. But, oh well, at least that's as far as technical difficulty as far as this is concerned or something like that. But, either way though, I'm just gonna call him Crashman because Crashman is the most recognizable Robot Master from the likes of Mega Man 2 for the NES standpoint, so I guess that's that. So, anyways, so you know the drill, basically, much like the forms of how it does in Crashman stage from Mega Man 2 on the NES, basically we have to utilize those moving platforms in order to progress. So yeah, you're probably familiar with that particular style like this, so... But anyway, and yeah, as I was saying, when it comes to the forms of using Rush Jet in this game, basically it functions the same way as the forms of how it does it in the Mega Man 3 for the NES, because obviously you can able to go whatever you want to go for the actual Rush Jet ability. So at the very least you're able to get that at the very least, but unlike in Mega Man 3 on the Game Boy, and same applies to the forms of Mega Man 4 on the Game Boy and Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy, you're able to actually go into the exact same you know, moveset for the likes of Rush Jet based off from Mega Man 4 and onwards. And I'm almost gonna get myself killed right there. But regardless of such though, let's go ahead and use Rush Jet to get up there. Able to get ourselves our first energy tank, which, like I said, you can only carry up to 4 of those energy tanks, which, because of the limitations of the Game Boy, which can be also applied onto the future games on the Game Boy installments. But there's actually that cool little thing, whenever we get into the forms of Mega Man 4 for the Game Boy, alongside with Mega Man 5, that I'm sure that most people already know what exactly I was about to explain. Well, assuming if Silver the Hedgehog is going to be tackling through Mega Man 4, and of course Mighty the Armadillo will tackle through Mega Man 5 for the Game Boy. So, hopefully stay tuned for those. So, anyways, let's go and keep on climbing up to this ladder, so just in case we can able to get a sense of progressioning, and of course the birds has now finally make its return. Well, technically, that the last time we actually see those bird-like enemies, then that was the forms of well, the final stage from the likes of the forms of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge, so that might be something worth noting for. And I see there's an energy tank just right over there, so we can able to actually just climb up to that ladder on the right, and we can able to obtain that energy tank while doing so. And of course we can able to just take down that bird robot. Oh god, it does manage to respawn every time whenever you manage to able to either kill them, or just simply just let them flew by. So I honestly have no words to think about it. But this particular variation of Crashman stage is actually a bit easy, but at the same time it can be tricky on that particular that jump, as you noticed, that I've come across into another death, because, well, if you dare touch something that's usually it's like, I don't know, like hot, like lava and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure, that's how you instantly die. So, Anyway, so let's go and take down Crash Man, not Clash Man, by the way. So of course, his weakness is pretty obvious. It's the actual, the Airman's weapon, so we can easily take him down like no sweat. And thankfully, since we got ourselves our sliding ability ever since in Mega Man 3 on the NES, so basically, trying to dodge him is actually a bit tad easier. But I will say that he's actually a little bit harder than the forms of how it does it on Mega Man 2 on the NES, because I have no idea why. It's because the forms of the arena itself is a bit smaller in comparison to the ones in the forms of in Mega Man 2 on the NES. But regardless of such though, we still managed to kick his butt. So in this case though, we should be able to actually get ourselves the Clash Bomber, or Clash Bomb, as for whatever reason it says it on here. And also we've got ourselves our Rush Coil, which unlike Mega Man 3 on the NES, that basically you get a Rush Coil from the get-go, whilst in here though, you have to unlock it this time around, so not exactly sure how that's going to be represented, but anyway, so we ended up in the Dr. Wily's fortress from the start right here, so after dealing with the forms of the rest of those, you know, 4 remaining Robot Masters from Mega Man 2 on the NES, and he somehow creeps back. Oh gosh, there's a trap floor. So in this case, we ended up on the teleportating room, and this means that, well, I suppose we should probably tackle for those next 4 levels enduring at some point until tomorrow. So, with that being said though, we'll get the endings off here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy. That is the fact that we're going to be tackling for those series of those levels from the teleportating room. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.